Being 5:30, we'll call to order the meeting of Fitchburg Board of Public Works for Monday, February 20th, 2023, held in the Francis Huntley Cooper Council Chamber. Just a reminder, on February or March 8th, we'll be having a ceremony here dedicating the name of the room. I forget exactly what time it is, but tonight attending in council, everyone's in council. Dave Wilborn, myself, Michael Gradetsky, and Alder Wheeler are here tonight. So we have no public appearances for non-agenda. Also, Director of Public Works, Tim, is here with us also. Sorry, mean to slight you, Tim. All right. So the first item on the agenda, 3 Alpha, approval of minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the February 6th Board of Public Works minutes?
I so move we approve the minutes.
Moved by Wilborn. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Granetsky. Questions, additions, changes? Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor of the approval of the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Minutes are approved. Next, for a report from the department head. Tim, we'll turn her over to you.
For the record, Tim Volker, Director of Public Works, City Engineer. First, just a staffing update. We interviewed for the Assistant Director's position on Friday, February 10th. 4 candidates, made an offer to one, just waiting to hear back. Secondly, the Engineering Technician Trainee position, we made an offer to someone and she accepted. So Samantha Schultz will be starting with us on Monday, March 6th. And then lastly, last week we interviewed for the engineer interns for summer. We have 3 positions. So I believe we'll be making a couple offers out of that and seeing who accepts. A couple had some other offers that they were weighing. So we'll see how that turns out. If they turn it down, then we'll obviously interview more for those positions. And the transportation engineer still remains open. Next up was just an update on the Lacey Road Seminole Highway project. The bid opening is pushed back a week. Was supposed to be open tomorrow. However, we pushed it back due to some late questions working through an addendum. So bids will be opening next week, Tuesday, February 28th. And then lastly, we scheduled a public information meeting for the Sain Road reconstruction project, and that has been scheduled for March 8th at 6:30 p.m. at fire station number 3. So we sent out mailing notices to the adjacent neighborhoods, posted on the city's internet site, and then also mentioning during this meeting for attendance on March 8th for that project. And that's all I have to report.
Questions for Tim? Go ahead, Jim.
What impact on road projects will there be without having a traffic engineer?
Yeah, so right now it's a heavy workload on road projects, so that's just getting deferred to staff. With the assistant director hopefully coming on board shortly, we can sit down and kind of maybe rethink that position a little bit, come up with some different ways to recruit. So yeah, I mean, definitely an impact. It's just getting distributed over the existing staff. Another thing I talked about is, sitting down and looking at, do we need to push a roadway project back because of that? So that's something, within the first couple weeks, the assistant director coming on board that we would discuss, potentially pushing back. I forget the road. It's not coming. We just awarded the contract for AECom to do the design.
Nesbitt.
Yeah.
Or Fitchrona.
Yeah, Fitchrona. Thank you. So, maybe that's something we push back, to get the current roadway projects through the pipeline.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Other board members? We would defer to you on that decision. We'll support you and, whatever direction you want to go in that, just so know that. just kind of tongue in cheek, did you have any idea that you would be mostly having to interview and hire your whole staff when you came there? Or did they,
I did.
Did they
They
tell
did
you
make
that?
me
I hope
aware of
they
that.
did. Hope they did.
They did make me aware of that. You know, what I look as that as, you know, building the team that you want. So that, you know, that was actually one of the things I thought as a benefit. You know, I could bring in the staff that's needed, and, you know, you look to hire someone that could, you know, where you're not strong in, you can fill that void with someone that is strong in that area. So I think it's really a benefit for the city that, you know, bringing in me and then the people under me, that we can kind of fill those gaps, so.
Well, I know you'd rather, you know, there's other things you'd rather be doing, doing the work of the Director of Public Works, but as you know, hiring and creating your staff is part of the job, okay? Thank you for the report, Tim.
You're welcome.
So we'll move on to our agenda items here now. So first is 5 Alpha, Resolution R2523, releasing a public sanitary sewer easement in Lot 2 of CSM 8023. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Granetsky. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Wheeler. If I understand this right, Tim, we're able to put this sanitary sewer in the road right-of-way, so we no longer need this easement through the CSM?
Correct. So the easement was recorded back in 2020, and now as part of the Lacey Road project, it's becoming right-of-way, so that the original easement can be released for it.
Okay.
So,
I'm sorry, I didn't understand that better. All right. Yep. Any questions for the board? Pretty straightforward. Okay. Call the vote. All in favor of Resolution R2523, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, 5 Bravo, Resolution R3323, authorizing Amendment 2 to South Sain Road Reconstruction Design Services with KL Engineering. Do we have a motion to approve?
I move approval.
Moved by Wheeler. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by, we'll give that to Wilborn. Tim, you want to give us an update? What's involved with this amendment?
so it's additional design services needed on the Sain Road project to cover the revised scope and schedule. You know, basically, it's both phases of the project. So the first phase is kind of the middle section from Aurora Avenue to West Clayton. And then the northernmost phase is West Clayton north to McCoy. So as part of the staff turnover, KL's had some additional meetings to cover, you know, bringing different staff members up to speed. There's been some design changes that have been, you know, incorporated due to public comment, and also some additional field surveys, environmental documentation, and, you know, platting and real estate acquisition as part of this project. So the total fees for what they're proposing is $71,000, and that would cover both phases. So the middle phase is being covered by the city funded, and then the northernmost phase is a Wisconsin DOT funding.
Do you have an idea what of the 71K, what would be the split between what the city's going to pay and the DOT?
The city will be paying the entire $71,000, so the DOT funding would come in on the construction end of it.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I heard you mention, with K&L, with some turnover. I hope we're not paying for them, having to rotate their staff or get different staff. I hope that's not,
Yeah, it's not.
I hope that's not, I don't feel like we should pay for that if they've had turnover and had to get other people up to.
Yeah, it's on the city side, the turnover. So K&L
Okay.
staff has remained the same. So when the city turns over the staff,
Understood.
K&L has to then sit down, like with me when I came on board to kind of bring me up to speed. So
That is justified, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
you're welcome.
I'm going to just make a general comment on this one. It looks like a lot of the Amendment 2 stuff perhaps could have been avoided during the initial design phase. When I start to see things like avoid acquisition from an unwilling property owner, I start to think of what was happening during this initial phase where everyone was in agreement, or was it that land values went up and all of a sudden he or she is no longer willing to participate at the previous rate, and what sort of contingencies do we have in the planning for that? But the bigger one is, traffic control redesign based on driver behavior. It's like, shouldn't we have known what the driver behavior was during phase one? So those are just sorts of things that, being both on TTC and on Public Works, I know we've seen a slurry of these over the years and are always a little bit aware of these things as they come through during the initial design, and know that things do change, but always want to try to minimize these as much as possible, and always look to the actual department to try to foresee anything upcoming. So
Yeah, absolutely. I know as far as the traffic behavior, kind of what I heard was for the first phase that's under construction now, they went to a one-way, and a lot of the drivers weren't adhering to the signage out there. So it was one-way travel, but they were going the opposite way. So that during construction, they still put up signs, and, signs only do so much that it still was an issue. So it was kind of a lessons learned, I think. So the second phase and the third phase are going to be done differently when they go to construct, so.
And how much of that, in your opinion, and this is maybe a bit of a rhetorical question, would be enforcement rather than scope changes?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an enforcement, so.
Yeah, it's it was a little unfair, for Tim. He was involved with.
Oh,
Yeah. We're not.
No, yeah, this is.
I'm thinking out loud. I'm saying, yeah. Did I not do a good job of vetting this? Thinking, or did we rely on K&L, to be kind of identify these things for us, and they do a darn good job. But we get done, Tim. You put on your list, lessons learned with them. Possibly we sit down, what could we have anticipated, or, that we wouldn't have happen again to us, that we, have a list of things to check the next time because we'll have more projects, I have no doubt.
Absolutely.
Any other questions for Tim? Okay. Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor of Resolution R 3323, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next, Resolution R 3023, first resolution exercising police powers and levying special assessments for Central Park Place, East Sherrill Parkway, and Green Market Place improvements in the city of Fitchburg. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Granetsky. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Wheeler. By point where we're exercising police powers and levying special assessments, everything is completed to the city's satisfaction?
Correct.
All right.
Yeah, this is just this resolution's the final part of the assessment process, adopting the final assessments.
Okay. And in here, I'm sorry, I got a page down. So what is is it in here what our total assessments that we're going to be requesting on here? Sorry, I'm a little slow in finding the right page here.
I don't think
Oh, it's not listed in here at this point, okay. So probably have to do the assessment resolution, yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm a little slow tonight. So any questions for Tim on this?
No, this is just another one of those first time through sorts of deals. Historically, the city has been fair at communicating some of these projects where there are going to be assessments issued, and there's some good policies in place, and the city staff has just done a fairly good job, but every once in a while we'll get a little bit slow on the communication process, and so the more communication we can get out there, the better, and that's just kind of an FYI, and obviously something you'll be proactive with.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. You know, he's right, Tim. We've been beat up on that pretty well, you know, now. You know, it's on me, it's on the city, you know, that we want to do better, you know. People are never happy about assessments, you know that, but bad news doesn't get better, you know, with time. So communicate the best, we make our best effort at communicating, and we'll move forward. Right? Any other questions? See none, all in favor of Resolution R 3023 signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, 5 Delta, Resolution R 4123, approving First Amendment to the agreement for subdivision improvements in the plat of Highfield Reserve.
I so move we approve R-41-23.
Moved by Wilborn. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Gronetsky. Mr. Fahey, would you like to have anything you want to say? Well, come on up. You came. Oh, you're here. So it's, you know, just for the record, you know, subdivision, you know, we'll have a number of amendments as we go through before it's finalized. What's the size and scope of the First Amendment? How many?
I think it's just finishing the stormwater ponds, the plantation,
Okay,
the planning. So I think it just relates to the stormwater ponds.
okay.
Yeah, basically, they're asking for an alternate schedule to complete the infiltration facilities, basically so the engineered soil doesn't, during construction, doesn't build up. So they're looking to complete that after construction, so it can actually infiltrate.
So are you putting some sort of sand or clay in the bottom of it, or
They already have sand, but I think we have to put a little more engineering material, re-rototill, and plant the vegetation.
So we don't want to wash a bunch of clay in and then it doesn't infiltrate. I understand. Is it compatible with, we're able to do it without incurring runoff that we don't want on the project?
Yeah, that's what we don't want, is to construct the infiltration facility and then they go to construct and all that's running off during construction.
Okay.
And, I guess basically the sediment is, filling up in the infiltration facility during construction. So we want to have that constructed after, so it can, basically be what it's supposed to do right away is infiltrate after everything's constructed, that it doesn't have to be cleaned out, or it's not as efficient, basically.
So how do we prevent me getting a phone call from someone complaining about mud washing down the street during the construction?
Well, during construction, they're going to have their sediment and erosion control, per their permit, and that'll be inspected during construction. So we'll make sure that it's not happening. That's checked, I believe, daily or at least weekly.
Because that's one of the complaints we get, with construction, and you're set up fine, and then you get a gully washer,
Yep.
and we've all gotten that call, but yeah, I understand, this makes sense. Any other questions on this? Okay. See, now we'll call the vote. All in favor of Resolution R 4123 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Fahey. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
Next, Resolution R 3523, 2023 annual purchase of chemicals. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Gronetsky. We have a second.
Second.
Second. Is there any change in our vendor or anything here, or pretty much getting, purchasing from the same sources as we have in the past?
Yeah, Hawkins Chemicals are our current provider. It's still proposing to purchase from them the chlorine and fluoride
Okay.
for this fiscal year.
All right. As our water usage goes up, how do how do we balance this during, say this is a very heavy water usage year? I assume we're going to use more chemicals. Are you ordering for the whole year based on last year's usage, or I'm sorry, I'm throwing you in, stuff that you haven't had time to dig into.
Yeah, and I can kind of go off what I did at my previous employer is exactly that. You have what you went through last year, and, there's always going to be growth in the system. So you're going to need to add a multiplier. That's kind of where, you feel, is growth 1%, 2%, and then you would definitely see a uptick in the chemical usage based on growth. So that should be taken into consideration when time comes to budget.
How are we purchasing this? How does it come? Does it come in tanks? Is it, granular? How, for people watching, they might be interested in this.
Yeah, it's a liquid, so it's going to come in a, plastic tote or tank, and then each well is where it gets injected at, depending on what's needed at that well and the water quality coming out of that well.
So how big, is it a 100-gallon tank, 1,000-gallon?
I don't.
You haven't
don't
been
know,
there yet.
but I can get you that answer. And
I'm more just for people watching,
Sure.
Kind of education here. Any other questions on that? Making Tim's life difficult. All right. Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor of Resolution R 3523, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries. Next, Resolution R 3223, resolution accepting an agreement for engineering services for oversight of Lacey Road improvements. Do we have a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Moved by Wheeler, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Granetsky. So here this is a staffing shortage, that we do not have the people to do this ourselves. I think even there were a few times maybe where we were staffed a little closer and we had a lot going on, that we hired the same firm to do this oversight for us. Do you know, would this be Corey Horton doing this?
correct.
Okay, so I just note for the record, Corey is a former city engineer that we trust and hold in high regard, that would be providing this service. And what is the length? How long do we anticipate this project? Is it 6 months? I've lost track, Tim, to be honest with you.
Yeah, so Lacey, as I mentioned, the bids are gonna be submitted next week. Tuesday is the bid opening, so February 28th, and then we're looking to award, I believe, in probably April, the contract, then go to construction shortly thereafter, and looking to have it completed by November, I
Okay.
believe is the current schedule.
Roughly, a little more than 6 months. Okay. Any questions on this?
Yeah. Can I put you on the spot as far as budgeting goes?
Sure.
All right. So we're hiring, the funding for this is a capital project. Lacey Road, obviously, council approves capital projects, but in the budget, do you know if we had these consulting services in there already?
Yeah, from what I understand is with capital projects, the construction gets budgeted along with the construction engineering and inspection services. And then also a little contingency in there in case, an unforeseen condition comes up.
Sure. And when we have to go outside to consultants rather than do staffing, is your staffing time allocated against that project as well, where those dollars are just evenly shifted over to a consultant group, or is this money in addition to the capital project?
So
Because it's used in lieu of staff time.
yeah, I know staff time gets charged if it's within a TID, but I don't believe the city charges, if this isn't in a TID and the city's just funding it, salaries just coming out where it normally is budgeted.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but this is one of those kind of like some is TID money, some is city money, something along
Yeah, I
those
believe
lines?
Lacey has several funding sources that, as part of this, there's 2 or 3 TIDs along the length of that project, I believe.
Right, okay. And so this is for the entire project, not just for the city-funded component?
Correct. It's it's from Fitchburg to Seminole, and then the Seminole intersection also is all being
okay.
rolled into this one project.
Okay.
Or at least that's how it was bid out.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor of Resolution R 3223, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries. Next, 5 Gulf, Resolution R 4023, approving an agreement and permit between Department of Transportation, DNR, and City of Fitchburg for reconstruction and improvement of Badger State Bike Trail as part of the Lacey Road construction project. Do we have a motion to approve?
I move
I'll
approval.
second it.
Moved by Wheeler, second by Wilborn. As we know, the road will be getting wider at this intersection with the Badger State Trail, and assuming, we will need to make, I wouldn't think it'd be significant changes, but there will be changes to accommodate a wider road. I don't know if they're planning to put an island in the middle at that crossing. I didn't look at it that close, or if that's still to be determined, but the road being wider, I don't know if the roundabout, if that factors into this at all either. We'll be relatively close proximity with the roundabout, but I think that might factor in here also. Any board members have any questions on it?
What are they gonna do about that bike path coming in so close to the roundabout, nobody ever stops at it? We gotta have to wait till somebody gets hit, or are we gonna start somehow putting that so they gotta stop there?
How do I say it? That there is an enforcement issue going on with that. There are stop signs for the bikers, so that if bikers are not stopping, I would recommend that if we notice that becomes a citation issue with our police department. But again, I know that once the pedestrians are in the sidewalk or in the crossway, it's a right-of-way issue and they have the right-of-way. However, I have been through that intersection personally a number of times where bikers just do not stop.
Oh, they shoot right through.
No. And I know we've had a couple accidents over the years at that exact intersection.
There's only one person that stops, and that's me. From what I've observed.
Spike strips? Just kidding.
Well, this will be part of the design. Would I be correct, Tim, that they will be evaluating that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. We know the issue, so it is our intent, that we will have a safe and effective crossing on that well-used trail that will probably, the usage on it will probably go up a certain amount too with the development of the Edgewood property too. There might be a certain number of people coming down just for that. Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor of Resolution R 4023, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next, 5 Hotel, Resolution R 3823, approving contract with Helm Service for community center boiler replacement. We have a motion to approve.
I move approval.
Moved by Wheeler, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Wilborn. I believe this is the original boiler. Here, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe this is the original boiler. So, based on the age of when we built the community center, I think it would be this would be about the end of life, you know,
Yeah.
is what I would expect. I always hope things will last longer, but, is this one, did we go out for bids on this, Tim?
Yes, we did. I believe we received 3 proposals.
Okay, all right. I'm not familiar with this vendor.
On page 4, Dave.
Page 4, okay, I'm sorry, here. Give me one sec.
Should have a list of 3 vendors.
On page 4,
Page 4, 52 pages.
hang on. Okay, I see him.
But
Okay,
Actually, it probably shows up as page 75 on there.
all right, give me one sec. So I'm not familiar with that vendor. I assume we check the references, and they're reputable. And the prices are, relatively, they're in the ballpark, so this isn't, I wouldn't consider this a lowball bid, so. Any other questions on this? None? We'll call the vote. Give me one sec here, move back up. I'm slow in my navigation, bear with me. Okay. All in favor of Resolution R 3823, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Next, Resolution R 3923, accepting agreement for engineering services for well number 12 and Tower D. We have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Granetsky. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Is this, I thought this came before us earlier. Is this with Andy Jock, this contract, his company?
It's Andy with Strand.
Is this the one for the, where we had the microbial problem?
Now, this would be a brand-new
This is-
well,
Oh, I'm
well in
sorry.
a storage tank.
I'm sorry. Geez, I'm confused tonight. Okay. All right, well, number 12 in Tower D. I'm sorry. And so our map here would show that location. Approximately what would be the closest road there to that? Rimrock and MM. It's not that far from the school out there, is it? From the New Oregon School? I'm looking at this right. See on the far right side,
Streets on there is kind of throwing me off.
I see the Rimrock up above there, and
Okay.
I'm assuming that comes down, and Terra Vesta is over there.
It looks like, is that Lacey Road?
Maybe that is, yeah, coming all the way through. Okay. So this would be serving the new, assuming this would be serving Terra Vesta and that neighborhood over there. Okay, all right. Yeah, we've used Strand for these projects a number of times in the past.
Yeah.
Any questions on this one? Sorry, Tim, are we looking at an elevated, normal tower, a round ground level? What are we?
That'd be an elevated storage tank, just
Okay,
like we currently have.
okay, all right.
Do you know of any plans to put any sort of Fitchburg signage on the tower at all?
At some point, yes, there would be, and I believe we'd also, as part of this, Strand's going to evaluate some, I believe, the repainting of some of the existing towers. So at that time, we could relook at, what's on there.
The reason why I ask is this has come up in numerous times in budgeting processes, and and I won't speak for the entirety of the board, but for myself, that seems to be outside of the jurisdiction of Public Works. I mean, obviously, the repainting and the maintenance, yes, but if there's additional signage that our commerce or economic development councils want to put on, to me, that really falls outside of the scope of Public Works and is more of a city business development jurisdiction. So just to kind of make sure that we're not conflating the two when we get to that point.
Okay.
Good comment, Michael. Yeah.
I take it when these are done, they're gonna be switching services from one well to the other, right?
Well, we'll
Because
just,
right now, I think 4 and that's taking care of that area, but after 12 gets in, they're gonna kind of spread that out a little bit, because they're getting overworked to start with. Am I wrong or not?
well, 11 is in that zone right now.
Yeah, but I think also well 4 was helping out
You're pumping.
on it.
Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't think just, I wouldn't think 4 would be needed anymore once
No, I think
for
that'd be
that, for
stuff.
that zone, yeah. Yeah, that zone.
And I'm assuming there's redundancies built in, so
Oh, yes, yes. These are, I'm trying to think, these are pressure zones on elevation. Then maybe you could, for next meeting, you talk to Tracy. I'm just curious what the status of our modeling of the system is. Whether we have a up-to-date model, whether we're scheduled to do one in the next, couple of years, a water system model.
did we just have one done?
Can't remember.
I think we just had one done at least maybe about a year or two
Okay.
ago. They came in and discussed the need for this well and the whole system design.
Okay.
So that might be in there as we were planning, this
yes,
out.
yeah.
I remember seeing something.
That seems to make sense.
And as part of this work, several of the wells are going to be switching zones. So, like well 10 is going to be in the east zone, well 11 switch to the northeast zone, well 7 to the south system, well 7 and 8 are currently in the south system. Well 7's going to the northeast zone.
Yeah.
Okay.
And well 8's going to be abandoned. So I believe as part of the master plan, all this was kind of modeled, looked at, and kind of laid out.
Yeah.
So now it's just kind of following through with that plan.
Never mind, asked and answered. Thank you, Michael.
I was gonna say, I remember the zones, and while the details escape me, I remember thinking that there was adequate coverage. This
Okay.
was gonna help us out here.
Okay.
Yeah, so the south system's going to be combined with the northeast zone, improving reliability and redundancy for this area.
They will appreciate that. They will appreciate that. Right, any other questions on this? Do we have idea, how deep do we think we're gonna drill this well?
I don't know if we know that
Okay.
at this time.
Okay, all right.
And then this is always another sticking point with some of these neighborhoods, especially out to the east, is a lot of them are on septic and well. And when new service areas get put in, and again, we start running service areas to newer development, we have to go through existing neighborhoods. There's a lot of rightfully so concern that the city is putting in something that those current residents don't want, and more or less forcing hookups and all that other good stuff. So just so you kind of know the lay of the land as we've gone through this a couple times, that's always another area of contention, especially out in the eastern part, because a lot of that is existing residents, existing homes that already have a good system in place. They feel it's a great system and may be reluctant to change.
Okay.
Common thread, we see it every time. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? I just add, our water system, we're making the investments to maintain a reliable and safe water system for our residents. It'd be easy to not spend money on our system, but we A, we have to accommodate the growth, and B, we want a robust, safe
I think
system.
you're right, David. We gotta stay up on it.
Yeah. fall behind, then bad things can happen, so. All right, then, no more questions, we'll call the vote. All in favor of resolution R 3923, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Next, ordinance 2023-0-03, amending chapter 68 to extend 35-mile-an-hour speed limit on Seminole Highway. You have a motion to approve.
I'll approve of ordinance number 2023-0-03.
Moved by Wilborn, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Wheeler. So if I recall right, on Seminole, we get a little south of Lacey, and it turns to 45 for a short period.
Actually,
It starts,
coming from Seminole this way on Lacey, it's 35 now.
it's 35
It goes
now.
to 50 once you cross the bike trail headed west
Okay,
on Lacey, and that's what they want to lower from 50 to 35, I'm assuming.
so it'll go,
Pardon?
that section will be 35 all the way down to Whalen Road.
Well, actually, Lacey would be 35 all the way to Fitchburg. It's been 50 right now. That's what they got to lower when they redo it.
This is,
me?
this is just on Seminole,
This is
though.
just on Seminole, so it'll be from Seminole.
Okay,
from-
but I mean, they're going to have to lower them both. I would assume it'd be smart to do it at the same time, but
Well, yeah, this is the only one we have before us now.
I see, we don't know, but.
So 35, from essentially Lacey to Whalen Road, where Seminole ends.
Yeah,
It's actually where the Badger Trail crosses Seminole, so from that point
Okay.
north to Lacey, it'll be 35 we're looking to make just for the approach to the new roundabout going in. It's
Oh.
part of the Lacey Road construction.
So it won't be from Whalen all the way to Lacey Road roundabout?
No, it'll start where the Badger Trail crosses Seminole, then north.
Okay, all right.
Well, I'm not necessarily the biggest proponent of making people go slower. Do you know of a reason why we just didn't extend that all the way down to Whalen?
I do not know that.
Okay, because it seems kind of weird if you're turning onto Whalen, you can crank up to 50 and then, not too far into the future, go down to 35 right away and then continue 35 into Fitchburg.
Yeah, it might be rural versus, urban service territory versus not. I agree with you. I agree that I think it'd be, if you're doing it, I think we'd be better off just reducing it the whole way.
and I also think that'd take a lot of that rush hour traffic off of that road.
I don't know where it would go.
Well, I mean, they'll go down Fish Hatchery to Whalen before they go over then,
Okay.
Or they'll just go 50.
15.
or they'll go over by bike.
Fair enough. This is the ordinance at hand. So
Well, we have it in front of me. I understand, it's from Badger Trail crossing Seminole, up to the intersection. Reduce that section, so we're not coming into a roundabout at warp speed.
Actually, it looks like I misspoke. Seminole High, so it's going to be from Seminole Highway from Whalen Road to a point 2,050 feet south of Lacey Road. So that's
that
probably where
cross.
the Badger
Okay.
Trail
So it is the whole- it
crosses.
is the whole
So
section.
that section is getting reduced.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Okay.
to
Yep.
me. That makes more sense. I like that. I like that better. I would just add also, on that section of road, bicyclists, you don't need to be on the road. There is a path that parallels Seminole, so you don't need to.
Correct.
You choose to be on Seminole Highway, that's your own risk, a little bit. Okay, any other questions on this? Thank you for the clarification, Tim. Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor of resolution, or ordinance 2023-003, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Next, 5 Kite, Resolution R 23722, accepting subdivision improvements for Phase 1B of the plat of Highland. And this has been postponed a couple of times. Do we have a motion to approve?
I move approval.
Moved by Wheeler, do we have a second?
second.
Second by Granetsky. Again, this was postponed before you got here. I'd ask, is everything up to the city's expectations to accept this subdivision?
Yeah, I checked with Tracy just this afternoon, and everything has been inspected and conditionally approved by Public Works.
Okay. Dave, any thoughts? No, we needed one before. Okay. Okay. All right, any other questions? Call the vote. All in favor of Resolution R 23722, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next, companion one, Resolution R 23822, accepting subdivision improvements for Phase 1A in the plat of Highfield Reserve. And again, this was postponed from January 10th. Do we have a motion to approve?
I so move we approve resolution number R-238-22.
Moved by Wilborn, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Granetsky. Any discussions on this? I believe, again, similar. It's up to the city standards, and there's no checklist items, open items on this anymore. Okay. Then we'll call the vote. All in favor of Resolution R 23822, signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carries. Last, Resolution R 4223, acceptance of the proposal from Masters Building Solutions for the Fitchburg Library Chiller Project. We have a motion to approve.
I move approval.
Moved by Wheeler. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Granetsky. You guys recall on this one, our system was not, we experienced premature aging or failure of this. Our system did not operate the way we had hoped. And the new, it should be cycled differently so that we have a better system here moving forward. Tim, you have anything you want to add on this? I don't think, probably haven't been involved in this too much yet.
Not yet, but we'll be involved coming
Okay.
up.
Was this the geothermal heating cooling system that I'm thinking of? Okay.
No. Nope, we didn't, we built the library, it was proposed, but we didn't have enough property
Okay.
around, area that we thought a geothermal would have worked effectively. There wasn't enough land around it where it sits, so we went with the conventional system there.
The library was slightly before my time, and I
Yeah.
remember that was one of the things that always stuck out was the geothermal is at the library, but we're saying that it's definitely not.
No.
And so this is just a regular, more or less, heating and cooling system.
It was proposed, Michael, and the cost, I don't know, the cost was, $500,000 or more, if I recall right. But, there were concerns that there wasn't a big enough area for it to be.
Sure, okay.
For it to be effective.
Okay.
Around it, so. And again, the system that we had, it failed prematurely due to, I think there were two compressors, and one was running all the time, and it never cycled to the other one. Do you recall something like that, Jim?
No.
We discussed that?
No.
Yeah,
I think you're right, Dave.
This was
That
before.
was a problem.
There was a problem, and so we needed kind of an engineered design on this. So I think the design was made, and then now we're implementing it. Okay. All right, any other questions? Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor of Resolution R 4323, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries. Our next meeting is Monday, March 6th at 5:30. If you're not able to make it, please let me know. Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Moved by Granetsky, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Wheeler. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, we are adjourned.